Hi, I'm Noelle with Noelle Rollins Art, and these are my top 5 colored pencil hacks to help you save time, energy, and have some more fun with your art. As artists, every little thing we can do to make our drawings better, save time, just use different secrets and tips for different times, it's always going to help us. So these are just an example of indenting tools that you could also use. I like keeping things just super easy and wanted to share this. I probably would have gone back in with like the blunt end of something a little sharper if I had to do over again. This is just the edge of a paintbrush. But I like showing that art does not have to cost a lot of money and you can use what you have. We don't need to be too sophisticated that we get in our own way and stop progress. So my first tip is going to be indenting. So I thought, what is more simple than just a basic green leaf where we can break down and show these 5 tips one by one. So always with colored pencils, it's just all about the light, soft layers. Starting with a range of colors. So for this, I have a lighter green, a darker green, more of a sage green, and a darker bluish green. More of a bright, somewhere between lime green and Kelly green here. Grass green, we'll call it. And so you can see now I've gone in and made those indentions in the paper. And so what happens then as I'm coloring, this colored pencil won't go in that part. And so this is a very basic example of that. But where this comes in really handy is doing pet fur. I was doing a portrait, and I'll show it here in a little bit, of my dad who has blonde eyebrows in certain areas. And the way the light was hitting them, I just wanted to show these little tiny hairs caught in the light. And this indentation technique was perfect for that. And it added no extra time to my portrait. Once I got those down and laid, I could just let it be. So here's a couple examples of like the fur. You can see in this eyebrows up there. It really just helps. So that's something with a little bit of foresight, you can save a tremendous amount of time and just have a really neat effect to your artwork. So that's number 1. So number 2, soft layers. You started watching me do this. I'm all about this. Instead of picking just one color of green, which very easily we could have come in here and just, with a pretty solid hand, come in and laid that color down. But it's, in certain types of styles, that would be just fine. If you're going for something with a little bit more detail, then soft layers is going to be your friend. And I wasn't using any sort of reference for this drawing. I just more or less wanted to show these techniques. So this is not going to be the greatest leaf you've ever seen, but you get the idea. And again, I always go through and I try to sharpen all my colored pencils before I do a drawing so that as I'm in the moment, I can just grab them and have at least a little while before I have to sharpen them again. So that is one of my biggest tips. I don't have it in this video, but it's a huge one that really helps me once I'm in the creative zone to stay there. There's nothing worse to me than I'm finally ready to draw and then I have to stop what I'm doing and get supplies ready. Especially if I'm recording and things like that. It's nice to keep the flow going as much as possible. And always with colored pencils, sharpening is a huge part anyways. But if you can start with a little jump start of just drawing, that's always fun. So here I'm coming in with just a little bit of a brown. So far you can just slightly see those indentation lines, and it just adds just a little bit of extra detail. So if I were to leave it here, it could maybe be okay. And a leaf is a great way to show because it is so basic. But where the soft layers really come in are on, I always feel on skin tones, it's a huge thing. So at this point, I have all the colors layered in there. My next favorite thing is rubbing alcohol or mineral spirits. And you want to get the odorless mineral spirits as well if you do that. And I always put it into a smaller little container so that I have it ready to use. And then I'm not having this giant thing full. And you can use a cotton swab for this or a brush. And you want to try not to get too much on your brush to where it drips down your paper. You don't want that. And so for this one, since the direction of my pencil strokes didn't matter, you'll see me going all directions with this paintbrush. But if I was going around a nose or a mouth, I would follow the direction of the strokes to really keep things in line. And the only other thing you have to watch with this rubbing alcohol, mineral spirits, is if you have black or really dark color, you need to be careful because it can carry some of that color into your lighter colors. So if it's something that you're concerned about, start with the lighter areas and work into the darker areas. So now that I've waited 15 minutes or so for all of the paper to dry again. And what that did was just remove some of the waxiness and gave me a little bit more of some tooth again to be able to draw another layer. And it smoothed it out, really took away some of the paper showing through, things like that. So now I'm going in with a little bit more pressure so I can show tip number 4, which is scratching and etching. So again, basic supplies. I found a little razor blade type thing. And I'm just going away and scratching. And this is one of my favorite techniques for hair. And you can use this. I've done this on whiskers and stubble. On a man, I've done it for pet hair. And it's just a little bit extra. You can really play with this if you want to do a lighter or darker color underneath and then come in with the opposite on top and scratch away a little bit. You can have a lot of fun with this technique. Here I'm just kind of showing the example, not creating a very realistic leaf, but you can get the idea then. So I'll show you some fun examples of when this could really be used in ways I've used this technique. Every one of these has a place, and I thought it would be really fun to show them all one on top of the other, just so you can really see how they can work together. So here I'm putting a little bit more pressure to kind of give something to scrape away as well. You want to always be careful not to scrape so hard that you cut your paper or create a scratch in there that's too deep. So here's some examples of places where I've used this technique in just etching away. And keeps it fun. So my next tip is this texture fixative. And where this has helped me is if I have just worn the tooth of the paper down and I just don't have anything left, everything's flattened and there's nothing to really grip onto the colored pencil. This is a savior. Once in a while, I have to pull this out. So I've taped off a little bit more of my board. moving some of my supplies out of the way. Typically, I would lay my board flat at this point, and it will make your paper ripple a little. So I tape the edges down with some painter's tape or masking tape and just do a light layer. And sometimes I'll let that dry and come in and do a second light layer if I really feel like there's some major things that I need to correct. In fact, this just happened on a portrait that I did where I added black eyeliner and then decided to change the eyes. And so I was really grateful for this product. So texture fixative, and it just adds like this little almost grainy texture back to your paper. I probably would have gone back in and done one more layer realistically here, but you can still get the idea. So what that's done is just added a little bit more tooth again for me to be able to grip onto. Sometimes we work the paper down so much, and then you know that once it reaches that glossy pressed point, there's not a lot you can do. And this is the fix for that. So now I'm just coming in here with a deep blue to just add a little bit of final detail. Kind of clean this up just a little bit. And you can get the idea then. I'd love to know in the comments what your favorite tips are. There was more I could have added, but I always love learning from you as well. And I'd be so grateful if you'd share what you find yourself going to either create shortcuts, to save yourself if you've made a mistake, or just a better technique that makes the drawing higher quality. I really think it's great when we all can learn from each other and all grow as artists. So I always welcome your comments and constructive feedback. I think it's important for us artists to stick together. So that's it. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. I would love if you'd subscribe to my channel and give this video a like if you got something from it. And leave a comment. Tell me your favorite tip out of these, or if you have one. Here's an example of that black eyeliner and where I added the texture fixative to clean it up. And then I just lightened it up a lot. And it looks so much more natural after this. So that was just one fun way that I was able to use that tip. All right, thanks for watching, you guys. Have a wonderful day. Bye.